And turning now to this Earth 8 report. So you may know there are hundreds of chemicals that are out there that may be harmful to our health in our environment. So which ones should we avoid? That might be a common question people are asking. Well, in this Earth 8 report, I checked out how sea urchins are helping give answers out of this lab in La Jolla.
These are the actual animals?
Welcome to Hamdoun's Lab, a place where first-of-its-kind discoveries are being made by a group of hardworking researchers led by marine biologist Amro Hamdoun.
So this species of sea urchin that we use for this kind of work is Lidochinus pictus.
Also known as the painted sea urchin, native to Southern California waters.
They have a lot of eggs. Each one of these sea urchins will produce several million eggs, so that's more than enough material for us to do our experiments in the lab.
That is their natural way, which is why sea urchins have been used in research for about 40 years. And now, for the first time in the U.S., Hamdoun's lab discovered how to create genetically modified sea urchins.
They either have the knockout gene or they don't.
Casey Mitchell, a lab assistant, shows us the sea urchins that came from the ocean. And you wouldn't know the difference between the two except for the labels on their tanks.
We will then fertilize those and then create, hopefully hundreds of thousands of brand new urchins. Those offspring will be genetically modified.
She says here at Scripps Institution of Oceanography, they're essentially setting a new standard for other labs.
What we're doing is, in essence, making something that's like a fruit fly from the sea that you can study genetically.
A fruit fly of the sea, but with far more spines. What is it doing as it wiggles?
Yeah, so sea urchins have control over their spines. Basically, that's how they move around.
They use two tentacles to search for their food. They like kelp. They search for a mate and chemicals in the environment they should perhaps avoid.
Very sophisticated kind of sensory systems.
By knocking out a protein called a drug transporter in these genetically modified sea urchins, researchers can ultimately see why certain chemicals enter the human body and why some don't. Hamdoun tells me there are about 85,000 chemicals out there, and about 200 to 300 chemicals are found in our bodies. DDT is one example.
Almost everybody will have some DDT in their body, and it's from this legacy of DDT that's present in the oceans primarily.
The dumping of barrels and barrels of the toxic pesticide decades ago still haunts marine biologists, but Hamdoun's lab is helping make sure history doesn't repeat itself.
Change the way that we use chemicals in the environment so that we use them more safely.
And ironically enough, this was all a fallout of the pandemic.
While a lot of people were home sort of making sourdough starters and doing arts and crafts, we were doing something similar. We were just making a genetically modified sea urchin.
That can eventually determine what might be hazardous to our health.
To understand fundamentally new things about the way that life works.
Also, how we deal with chemicals, not only for our health, but also impacts the sea urchin.
Yeah. So they can actually tell from a sea urchin if there's a chemical that can get into it and maybe harm it. That could also harm us. So we oddly have a lot of similarities with sea urchins, at least in this lab setting.
Yeah. The way they move is quite fascinating too.
Wiggle, wiggle.
The little wiggle, wiggles. So yeah, they do. We wiggle as we walk.
We do wiggle.
Yeah.
Some of us are spiny.
That's true.
So yeah, there you have it. But it's interesting stuff coming out of the lab. That so many other labs now will, use that type of technology.
Fascinating stuff they're doing there.
Yeah.